Hello, hello everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Hey, Abbas and Chris, welcome. How is everyone doing? Please share this live stream with whoever you think can benefit from this. And today we're gonna be coming back to chapter 2 of the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Alrighty. So let's quickly remember what we did last week. Oh, sorry, yesterday. Oh, Ed, hello. Good to see you, man. This is the first time someone's commenting from the X platform. Good to see you. All right. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for sharing the live stream, guys. Thank you very much. And hi, Harun. Good to see you as well. So, yesterday we were looking at different types of cash flow statements and income statements and balance sheets for different types of people. So, if we just quickly remind ourselves, this is how the poor person uses money. They have a job that produces income in forms of salary, but it all just goes basically to their expenses and nothing is left. Now, this is a cash flow pattern of a person in the middle class. Again, they have a job which produces steady income in form of a salary, but then they also get to spend on some liabilities, which they might even think as being assets, but those are actually liabilities. So things like mortgages, car loans, credit card debts, school loans, and then those obviously produce some expenses too, like mortgage payments, car payments, credit card payments, on top of existing expenses like taxes. Now, this is a cash flow of a rich person. What do rich people do? They buy assets, and those assets produce income in form of rental income, dividends, interest, royalties, and they also have liabilities, but now that income covers their expenses and their assets offset the liabilities. Hey, Eren, welcome. Good to see you guys. We have Chris, we have Eren, we have who else is here? Shubar is here, Harun is here, and obviously Ed is here, Ed McCoy from the US, which is amazing. Good to see you. Let's continue. So these were the three patterns that we saw yesterday, and this is what we highlighted. Cash flow tells the story of how a person handles money. So from those simple things like the balance sheets and cash flow statements, we can see whether a person has the pattern of a poor person or middle class or rich person. So we also highlighted that what's missing from their education is not how to make money, but how to manage money. Many people know how to make money, but they're still not rich because whatever comes goes and they don't know how to manage whatever money they have. A person can be highly educated, professionally successful, and financially illiterate. And then we looked at some examples of how people, no matter how much money they make, they still end up paying more taxes, more expenses, and then on top of it, they get liabilities. And again, they are stuck in the rat race. And that's where I believe we stopped yesterday. Where was that red race comment? I'm just scrolling here. Hmm, there we go. That's where we stopped. So let's see. They are now trapped in the rat race. Pretty soon, a baby comes along and they work harder. The process repeats itself. Higher incomes cause higher taxes, also called bracket creep. A credit card comes in the mail, they use it and max it out. A loan company calls and says their greatest asset, their home, has appreciated in value. Because their credit is so good, the company offers a bill consolidation loan and tells them the intelligent thing to do is clear off the high interest consumer debt by paying off their credit card. And besides, mortgage interest is a tax deduction. Uh, Not true for Australia, by the way. They go for it and pay off those high interest credit cards. They breathe a sigh of relief. Their credit cards are paid off. They've now folded their consumer debt into their home mortgage. Their payment Their payments go down because they extend their debt over 30 years. It is the smart thing to do, or so they think. Now, how the situation has changed in the 20 years since the book was published. Today, based on 2016 stats, which is still 10 years ago, US consumer credit card debt is at an all time high, $779 billion. Is it all bad debt or good debt? And do you know the difference? And that's where I believe we stopped yesterday. Let's see. People asking in the chat for me to play Clash Royale. That's what we do at 6 to 7 p.m. Right now, these are the Billionaire Bedtime stories where you learn about finance, investment, money, and economy. Their neighbor calls to invite them to go shopping. The Memorial Day sale is on. They promise themselves they'll just window shop, but they take a credit card just in case. I run into this young couple all the time. Their names change, but their financial dilemma is the same. They come to one of my talks to hear what I have to say. They ask me, can you tell us how to make more money? They don't understand that their trouble is really how they choose to spend the money they do have. It is caused by financial illiteracy and not understanding the difference between an asset and a liability. More money seldom solves someone's money problems. Intelligence solves problems. There is a saying a friend of mine uses over and over to people in debt. If you find you have dug yourself into a hole, stop digging. And let me highlight this as well, so we'll get back to it on our Saturday session. Ed says all debt is bad, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, it depends. Not all bad is debt, but I agree that interest is, as a concept, is not the best. Alrighty, as a child, my dad often told us that the Japanese were aware of three powers: the power of the sword, the jewel, and the mirror. The sword symbolizes the power of weapons. America has spent trillions of dollars on weapons and because of this is a powerful military presence in the world. The jewel symbolizes the power of money. There is some degree of truth to the saying. Remember the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. The mirror symbolizes the power of self-knowledge. This self-knowledge, according to Japanese legend, was the most treasured of the three. And I think Ed will agree. Yes, there we go. There's a comment from Ed McCoy. I actually also agree that the mirror is the most powerful. The self-knowledge, knowing yourself, is the most powerful knowledge and is even more powerful than the money. And that's what we're here to do, guys. I'm not here just to teach you about the money. I'm here about to teach you about yourselves, how to better utilize the gifts and the blessings and the benefits given to you by whatever you want to call it, the God, the universe. So, all too often, the poor and middle class allow the power of money to control them by simply getting up and working harder, failing to ask themselves if what they do makes sense. They shoot themselves in the foot as they leave for work every morning. By not fully understanding money, the vast majority of people allow its awesome power to control them. Let me highlight the mirror because I think everything else is downstream. So the mirror, in my view, is the most powerful. From the mirror, which means your mindset, your understanding of yourself, trickles down the jewel, which is the power of money. And obviously, from the power of money, trickles down the power of the sword. So, what we need to do is to aim for the highest one. Oh, Cosmic Sandwich, good to see you. Yes, I do like your tweets and I agree. Ed says, I'm a little smart. My friend, you are amazingly smart. Alrighty. Yes, we were talking about it in the morning. Yes, yes, you're right. Today we had a class with year sevens and we were talking about the power of the mindset and the mirror. So, a person can be highly educated, professionally successful, and financially illiterate. And so they allow the power of the money control their life. If they use the power of the mirror, they would have asked themselves, does this make sense? All too often, instead of trusting their inner wisdom, the genius inside, most people follow the crowd. Please, this is so important. And that's exactly what we were discussing today with the year sevens, I believe. And then no, sorry, yeah, year sevens. Instead of trusting your inner wisdom, and I said the biggest asset, the most important treasure you have is the one between your ears, which is your brain, your mindset. And you need to protect it from all the crowd that is the noise around you that is trying to get it over. They do things because everybody else does them. They conform rather than question. Often they mindlessly repeat what they have been told. Diversify. Your home is an asset. Your home is your biggest investment. You get a tax break for going into greater debt. Get a safe job. Don't make mistakes. Don't take risks. These are the things that we hear all too often. It is said that the fear of public speaking is a fear greater than death for most people. According to psychiatrists, the fear of public speaking is caused by the fear of ostracism, the fear of standing out, the fear of criticism, the fear of ridicule, and the fear of being an outcast. The fear of being different prevents most people from seeking new ways to solve their problems. Oh my God, and I can relate to this so much. My background being Russian. And then I think most of us here, most of my students are Muslim people. And that fear of standing out, being different than everybody else, is one of the biggest psychological blocks that we have. Some amazing comments here from the X. Source, creative consciousness, universe, or any other. I call the consciousness the I am that I am. Not trying to squash anyone, understanding only my opinion. I actually agree. Fear is no fun. I can speak in front of millions and giggle like a child. Yeah, that's a good thing to do, actually. I think on the weekend I was talking to one of the students. Actually, no, I mentioned it today as well. The fear is given to us by God, by Allah, by the cosmos, so that it can protect us and it can also guide us. We can use the fear to our advantage, actually. If you're afraid of something, find an even bigger fear. What if you don't do something that you're afraid of doing? What then? How are you going to think about yourself? Is it better to fear doing something or live with the regret of not having even tried? So call the bigger fear to help you overcome your smaller fear. Alrighty, that is why my educated dad said the Japanese valued the power of the mirror the most, for it is only when we look into it that we find truth. Fear is the main reason that people say, play it safe. That goes for anything, be it sports, relationships, careers, or money. And I'm gonna highlight this because uh, the sooner you start to understand that many things in our life are happening in patterns. The same pattern applies to business, to education, to relationships. The same patterns apply over and over. The sooner you start seeing those patterns, the sooner you start applying those patterns. Those are like two different levels of mastery. And then there's a third level of mastery where we start creating our own unique patterns, and that's where we start changing things around ourselves. Those are the crazy people who think they can change the world, and that's exactly the type of people that I'm attracting and collecting around myself. So um, it is only when we look into it that we find truth, and I think this is what I'm going to highlight, um, because the truth, no matter how hard, no matter how uncomfortable it is sometimes, the truth is what will set you free. Most people are not even true with themselves. They keep telling themselves, keep finding excuses for not doing certain things. But the moment you accept the truth, however uncomfortable, that it is you and only you who is responsible for the outcomes you have in your life, the sooner you have a chance at making those slight minor shifts towards the better outcome. And thank you for the gifts, guys. Thank you, Abbas, for the gifts. It says, I adore your love for our future generation. Children are our future. Yes, my students keep always asking me, Mister, why are you at school? And I keep telling them it's not for the money, it's not for the position. It's literally just to be the person that I wish I had when I was at their age. It is that same fear, the fear of ostracism, that causes people to conform to and not question commonly accepted opinions or popular trends. Your home is an asset. Get a bill consolidation loan and get out of debt. Work harder. It's a promotion. Someday I'll be a vice president. Save money. When I get a raise, I'll buy us a bigger house. Mutual funds are safe. Those are all the things that we keep hearing over and over. And the more you hear these things, the more you start believing in them and they start becoming the reality. And please notice, whatever you accept as your framework of thinking is what you start seeing around yourself. Many financial problems are caused by trying to keep up with the Joneses. Occasionally, we all need to look in the mirror and be true to our inner wisdom rather than our fears. And that's a this reminds me of some of our conversations with my students where I keep referring to these different patterns that people have in their minds as poor mindset and the rich mindset. And some students, unfortunately, feel uncomfortable when I keep giving them examples of poor mindset, and they even tell me things like, "Oh, Mister, you're calling us poor." I mean, that's where the change starts, where you first accept the outcome that you have in your life and you accept the reality that is the uncomfortable truth. And there's no problem, there's no shame in being poor in the moment or being born to poor circumstances. I was born in a tiny township which is like 20-30,000 population, and here I am now in Australia enjoying this amazing evening with a double citizenship in a nice car and having my own house. It's what you do with the cards that you're dealt, with the situation that you find yourself in. That's what matters. And Harun here is asking, Mr. Is taking risks good? And you can find multiple videos on my account about this, that it's not as much about taking the risks, it's about managing the risk. If you take something that is very risky and you just dive straight into it with no precautions, I wouldn't say it's wise. But yes, if you want to achieve what the 99% wouldn't, if you want to be the top 1%, you need to do what the 99% wouldn't do. But you need to be clever about managing those risks. So there are risks and there are risk mitigation strategies. Hi Zahid, he's saying hi Mr. Mr. Will you be live streaming tomorrow? Yes, I will be live streaming every day. Today is Wednesday, and on Saturday we're gonna have our special stream where I will specifically focus on your questions. Alrighty. By the time Mike and I were 16 years old, we began to have problems in school. We were not bad kids. We just began to separate from the crowd. We worked for Mike's dad after school and on weekends. Mike and I often spent hours after work just sitting at a table with his dad while he held meetings with his bankers, attorneys, accountants, brokers, investors, managers, and employees. Here was a man who had left school at 13, who was now directing, instructing, ordering, and asking questions of educated people. They came at his beck and call and cringed when he didn't approve of them. And I think this is a interesting point to reflect upon. These are the exact professions that they teach us at schools and universities: bankers, attorneys, accountants, brokers. And they all come to Mike's debt, which is the rich debt, which I believe is Mr. Cunningham. And they answer to him. So, yes, he didn't maybe finish school or go to university, but now he is hiring all of those educated professional people and they are helping him. 20 years ago today. So, how the situation has changed in 20 years since the book was published. Who is on your team? Rich Dad surrounded himself with men and women who were specialists, attorneys, accountants, brokers, and bankers, and Kim and I have done the same. Today, our team of advisors is among our greatest assets. What's more important than money? An entrepreneur's team. Who is on yours? And that's where we can also relate to our immediate group of friends. Your friends, your team, your specialist team is what's gonna give you leverage. It's gonna elevate you or it's gonna bring you down. So choose wise who is on your team. Here was a man who had not gone along with the crowd. He was a man who did his own thinking and detested the words, we have to do it this way because that's the way everyone else does it. He also hated the word can't. If you wanted him to do something, just say, I don't think you can do it. And I'm gonna highlight this again. And this is why we're doing this here tonight, because I am looking for this exact mindset. I am looking for young people who do not accept the usual paradigm, the usual scenario of study hard, work hard, get a job, and die off paying your mortgage. Or even worse, someone else's mortgage. I want the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world, and I want to help them and support them. Mike and I learned more sitting in on his meetings than we did in all our years of school, college included. Mike's dad was not book smart, but he was financially educated and successful as a result. He told us over and over again, An intelligent person hires people who are more intelligent than he is. So Mike and I had the benefit of spending hours listening to and learning from intelligent people. That's it. So this, in a sense, shows your level of intelligence. Are you willing to only hire people who are not too smart because you're feeling comfortable? Or are you going to go out of your way to hire smart people? And there's another favorite quote from Steve Jobs that I love very dearly, which I actually have in my office even. Because some people do end up hiring smart people and then not listening to them. So the quote goes like this: It does not make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. We hire smart people so that they can tell us what to do. So it's not enough just to find and hire those smart people. You also need to know when to listen to them and when to tell them what to do. But because of this, Mike and I couldn't go along with the standard dogma our teachers preached, and that caused problems. Whenever the teacher said, if you don't get good grades, you won't do well in the real world, Mike and I just raised our eyebrows. When we were told to follow set procedures and not deviate from the rules, we could see how school discouraged creativity. We started to understand why our rich dad told us that schools were designed to produce good employees instead of employers. Occasionally, Mike or I would ask our teachers how what we studied was applicable in the real world, or why we never studied money and how it worked. To the latter question, we often got the answer that money was not important, that if we excelled in our education, the money would follow. The more we knew about the power of money, the more distant we grew from the teachers and our classmates. Now, as I always say, education is important. Education is paramount, but you need to understand what is it that you're actually learning. Are you learning how to learn, or are you just memorizing facts and numbers? So, be smart about your education, be purposeful about your education, and make sure you learn the things that matter. Ha, Arten is saying, thank you for the millionaire story you told, Mister, in class. You are welcome. Yes, today we had a very nice discussion, and I think I'll actually come back to that story on Saturday. Um, but yeah, the school unfortunately does not prepare us for anything other than the usual rat race or the poor life or the modern tax slavery. My highly educated dad never pressured me about my grades, but we did begin to argue about money. By the time I was 16, I probably had a far better foundation with money than both my parents. I could keep books. I listened to tax accountants, corporate attorneys, bankers, real estate brokers, investors, and so forth. By contrast, my dad talked only to our teachers. One day, my dad told me that our home was his greatest investment. A not too pleasant argument took place when I showed him why I thought a house was not a good investment. Now, I'm not going to get into all the details right now, but yes, there is a big difference between buying a house to live in and buying a house as an investment property. And I am so glad that back in 2020, one of the investors here in Australia spent, or actually not spent, he gifted me 2 hours of his precious time to explain the difference between buying a house to live in and buying a house as an investment property. And back then in 2020, I was looking to buy a house for my family because that's what I thought a good husband, a good provider should do for his family. And that investor convinced me that it is going to be way better if instead of buying a house to live in, we actually buy an investment property. And again, I'm so glad to this day to that guy. His name was Scott Kuro. Uh, I'm so glad that he gifted me those 2 hours. Ed, that's a good book. Yes, I agree. That's a good book. The only thing is, it's almost 30 years old now. So, one of the reasons why we're having these bedtime stories is I want to actually write my own book based on these lessons, but uh, I want to basically adapt the ideas to our age and to our youth. So there we go. We see the difference in mindset between his rich dad and his poor dad. Same balance sheet, same home, but the poor dad considers his home to be an asset, whereas rich dad knows perfectly well that a home that you live in is a liability. And is saying that I love reading. I have read so many books. Yes, this is actually I'm reading from my Kindle, and I have so many books on my Kindle. And even when I wake up randomly at 3 a.m., I just try to read the book. Oh, thank you very much. Ed says we must remain adaptable. I would endorse your book and let me know. Yes, thank you very much. Alrighty, the diagram above illustrates the difference in perception between my rich dad and my poor dad when it came to their homes. One dad thought his house was an asset, and the other dad thought it was a liability. I remember when I drew the following diagram for my dad, showing him the direction of cash flow, I also showed him the ancillary expenses that went along with owning the home. A bigger home meant bigger expenses, and the cash flow kept going out through the expense column. And if you remember the definition of assets versus liabilities that we discussed yesterday, keep it straight and simple, KISS method. Asset is something that generates money, something that puts money in your pocket. That's what we call an asset. Although it's a simplistic definition, but it's good enough for the young people's understanding. And liabilities are things that take money out of your pocket. So the car that you drive, the house that you live in, any kind of something that you take on and it leads to more expenses and it doesn't generate income, that's what we call liabilities. So the house that you live in has a mortgage. You have your mortgage payments, you have your property taxes, you have home insurance, you have maintenance, you have utility bills. So obviously, it does not generate any income. Yes, it can appreciate in value, but that's capital gain. That's a different story. But in terms of your cash flow, a house that you live in is definitely a liability. Today, people still challenge me on the idea of a house not being an asset. I know that for many people, it is their dream as well as their largest investment, and owning your own home is better than nothing. I simply offer an alternate way of looking at this popular dogma. If my wife and I were to buy a bigger, flashier house, we realize it wouldn't be an asset. It would be a liability since it would take money out of our pocket. So here is the argument I put forth. I really don't expect most people to agree with it because your home is an emotional thing. And when it comes to money, high emotions tend to lower financial intelligence. I know from personal experience that money has a way of making every decision emotional. Yes. So, emotions and meaning. That's another video that I shared earlier today, I think. Two things basically control your life. And again, those two things are controlled by this amazing substance that we have between our ears, our brains. Two things, emotions and meaning. So, what meaning we give to things and what emotions come up as a result of the meaning we give to things. That's what controls your life. So, when you think of your house, obviously it has a big meaning in your life and it leads to emotions, big emotions. And that's where rationality oftentimes goes out the way. So we need to be rational about our finances and make sure that emotions and meaning do not control our outcomes. When it comes to houses, most people work all their lives paying for a home they never own. Oh my god, we have music here, nice. Um, Let me highlight this as well. When it comes to houses, most people work all their lives paying for a home they never own. In other words, most people buy a new house every few years, each time incurring a new 30-year loan to pay off the previous one. Even though people receive a tax deduction, which we don't in Australia, for interest on mortgage payments, they pay for all their other expenses with after tax dollars, even after they pay off their mortgage. My wife's parents were shocked when the property taxes on their home increased to $1,000 a month. They had already retired, so the increase put a strain on their budget. Houses do not always go up in value. Again, might be different for Australia. I have friends who owe $1 million for a home that today would sell for far less. The greatest losses of all are those from missed opportunities. And let me highlight this again. If all your money is tied up in your house, you may be forced to work harder because your money continues blowing out of the expense column instead of adding to the asset column. The classic middle class cash flow pattern. If a young couple would put more money into their asset column early on, their later years would be easier. Their assets would have grown and would be available to help cover expenses. This is such a great example where I just cannot resist to share the story. Like I said, that amazing investor who had multiple investment properties advised me that the house to live in is not the best thing to purchase up front. He mentored me basically and said, instead of buying a house to live in right now, just put it off by 2, 3, 4, 5 years for as long as you can resist. Instead, buy an investment property. So in 2019, sorry, when I was looking to buy a house to live in, he convinced me to buy an investment property instead. That investment property made us more than $300,000 over the next 2 years. And in 2025, 5 years later, we bought our own house using the money that we gained from the first investment property. And again, the only reason that we moved into our own house is we have now 3 boys, and it's very different to find a rental property when you have 3 kids. People just don't want to rent you, and obviously there's a rental crisis going on anyway. So at that point where we couldn't resist anymore, we moved into our own house that was initially purchased also as an investment property. But at the time in 2019, we had 2 kids. We had our mother-in-law here as well with us visiting, and we lived in a 2-bedroom granny flat, 60 square meters. Was it easy? Not really, but that set us up for a huge advantage in the long run. So your ability to defer some pleasures for a bigger gain, for the compounded outcomes, compounded gains, is what probably will set you apart from the majority of people. Majority of people tend to do the opposite. They will take out a loan to get things sooner. They will get a loan to buy a better, fancier car because they can't wait and just accumulate the money. They will go out and take consumer debt to be able to buy a bigger TV, uh, better kitchen appliances, that kind of stuff. Whereas a smart person, an investor, will do the hardest things first and then do the pleasurable things. Harun is asking, what did I miss? I went to eat food. Well, that's the beauty of having everything recorded, isn't it? because you can, even on the live stream, you can just rewind back and continue from where you left off and even put it at 2x speed and continue. I think we will be finishing the stream in about 15 to 20 minutes. So, making a decision to own a house that is too expensive in lieu of starting an investment portfolio impacts an individual in at least the following three ways. And this exactly relates to my personal story that I just shared. Loss of time, first and foremost, loss of time, during which other assets could have grown in value. And this is what we highlighted even before. The biggest losses are the lost opportunities, and that's exactly this. If you go for the sweet and juicy stuff first, the things that you want rather than need, you lose time. Whereas the smart person, the investor, the rich person, the wealthy mindset will go for the hard and necessary things first and then go for the for the sweet and juicy things. It's literally like, same pattern as Harun just went to have dinner. And obviously, your parents will always tell you your veggies first, your meal second, and dessert last. And I think it is a smart thing to do with your finances as well. You got to make sure you have your assets first, you have your expenses covered, and then you can, if you have the opportunity, then you can go for extra liabilities like a better car or a bigger TV. Alrighty, what's the second uh, outcome? Loss of additional capital, which could have been invested instead of paying high home maintenance expenses. Yes. So the first one is about loss of time. The second is about loss of additional capital. The capital is something that keeps working even while you are sleeping. So that first investment property that we purchased, it's 5 years ago, is still working today. That investment property works and generates income even when I'm sleeping, even when I'm sick, even when I'm traveling or on holidays. It works 24/7. The video I'm recording right now is going to become a digital asset. I will go to sleep, and anyone who missed this will be able to watch it again and again. Hundreds, thousands, millions of people eventually will be able to watch it and benefit from it and gain value, I hope. So that is the digital asset. And that's how capital works. It accrues value over time. Cosmic Sandwich is saying, had great time listening to your story today. Thank you very much. We will be finishing soon anyways. And thank you for joining the stream. And the third, loss of education. Too often people count their house and savings and retirement plans as all they have in their asset column. Because they have no money to invest, they simply don't invest. This costs them investment experience. Most never become what the investment world calls a sophisticated investor. And the best investments are usually first sold to sophisticated investors, who then turn around and sell them to the people playing it safe. And that's a third level of lost opportunity, which most people would never even figure out. I am an investor. I invest in real estate shares and whatnot. But I'm a low level investor at what I am. I am not at sophisticated investor level. And I know very well that the best deals, the juiciest deals, go for sophisticated investors first, and then they take it and resell it to me. So the developers that purchase the land years before it is developed and registered, they actually make even more money than me, but their work also entails even higher risks. I'm not saying don't buy a house. What I'm saying is that you should understand the difference between an asset and a liability. When I want a bigger house, I first buy assets that will generate the cash flow to pay for the house. And I think this might be an amazing point to end today's live stream, because it also perfectly ties to the story that I just explained. The first investment property that we bought in 2019, 2020 is literally what paid for the house that we are currently living in. So, yes, I did want to provide a house for my own family, but we purchased an investment property first, made 300K plus on it in 2 years, and that money was the money that we used to buy our own house. And probably that same investment property is what's going to pay off our mortgage completely when it comes time to actually sell it, and then we can pay off our mortgage and live debt free from that point onwards. So, this is how investment works. This is how rich people become even more rich. And that's the secret that I wanted to share with you today. And please, if you like it, if you enjoy this live stream, if you enjoy these billionaire bedtime stories, join us every day at the same time. Share it with someone who you think will need it more than you. And let's enjoy these wealthy mindset and these secrets together. Your scorecard 20 years ago today. Without a financial statement, you don't really know where you are in life's financial game. Like it or not, money tells the score of your game, and a financial statement is your scorecard. Banks want financial statements, income statement, and balance sheet to know how well you're scoring in your life's financial game. Oh my God, this is something that I'm going to highlight as well because the highlights we're going to use for our Saturday session. This is so important. Most people go through their life without even knowing the difference between assets and liabilities. If you ask people what their net worth is, most people don't even know how to calculate the net worth, and they keep coming up with all these different understanding of what's net worth. So just having a clear understanding of your current situation is where the change has a chance to happen. So clear understanding of your current situation, whether you're broke, whether you're wealthy, rich or poor, you need to first figure out where you currently are. What is your plan in the long term? Do you have a financial plan? This is where financial literacy begins. You first understand the important things, how money works, and then you start creating your financial plan. And for this, I would say any plan is literally better than no plan. If you don't know your current net worth, if you don't know your current situation, whether you are in debt or if you have more assets than you have liabilities, figuring it out and knowing your exact number is the first step to starting to set some goals. And then you can look at your spending habits and make those tiny 1% advantages. No matter how hard your current situation is, and I know for most of my people listening here, you're just students in high school. But even that is actually a huge advantage because at this point you have no expenses, you have no liabilities. Whatever money you make, you can start investing. And you'd be surprised that people who are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, they still don't have the money to invest. They might, in fact, be able to invest even less than you because they have expenses, they have liabilities, and they have families to look after. Whereas you, as students, whatever money you make, even if it's $1,000, you have two biggest advantages. First is you don't have any expenses and any liabilities. You live with your parents, you don't have to even pay for your own food, your shelter, maybe you spend on your entertainment. And the second advantage is time. And that is the biggest advantage because I'm 38 years old at the moment and I have people in their 50s reach out to me for financial advice. And they realize that they only have 15 years left until retirement. And 15 years is not a very long time frame to get some significant results. Anyone can become a billionaire, sorry, a millionaire in as little as 8 to 10 years. Anyone, literally anyone, 8 to 10 years, you can become a millionaire. But for someone who is about to retire in 15 years, it's a huge challenge because they have already expenses and they have limited time, energy. Whereas you guys, even if you start as small as $100, $1,000, but you keep compounding, if you are 15 years old today, you have literally 50 years. You have 5 times higher chances than any other person to become a millionaire, a billionaire, whatever it is that you want. You have 50 years of time. You can try and fail, try something else, fail, 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 but then something will work out as long as you keep learning, keep trying. And Harun is asking, how do I invest? Because my parents won't let me. And again, I repeat, the best investment at your age and at this time is your education, your mindset, this amazing box between the two ears, the brain, your understanding of finance, the economy, the money. Invest in that. You have time. And the best type of investment that can be done at any age, requires little to no money, takes only your time and dedication, and it keeps compounding, which means it keeps increasing in value throughout your whole life for the remaining 50, 60, 70, 90 years, is knowledge. The mindset that you acquire today will take you further than any other type of investment that you can do at this age. Learning, like joining this live stream, for example. I want to thank everyone who has joined this live stream. Cost you nothing. And it's literally designed to be your bedtime story. Why? There is wisdom in that as well, because I want this to be the thing, the last thing on your mind before you go to sleep. And that's why we do it at this time. You listen to this, and your brain will keep working in the background while you're sleeping, while you're eating, while you're studying. It will start showing you those opportunities to invest, to improve, to add value. And that's what I always emphasize, add value. If you start thinking in terms of added value rather than um, money, that's the first thing. Yes, Harun is asking, Mister, remember the question you wrote on the board in my class? Is the answer education? Yes, the answer is education. The best type of investment is education. Why? Because whatever other type of investment you take, money, business, shares, crypto, real estate, things can change drastically. They can be taken away, they can be destroyed, they can be a disaster, they can be another financial crisis, and you will lose that. But the knowledge you acquire, the education you have, the mindset that you have, no one in this world is able to take it away. No one. No matter how hard they try, they can take away your money, they can take away your freedom, but no one will be able to take away your knowledge, your identity, and your understanding of how things work. So that is the best type of investment. And I think this would be a good time to end our live stream today. And tomorrow we will continue. And the funny thing is, guys, we are 27% through the book. And this is our what, fourth reading on this, which means in a couple of weeks' time we're gonna finish this book. Someone says, wait, I have a question. Of course, shoot. I will answer all of your questions gladly. And I'm sorry if my reading turned into a lecture. We were supposed to read a book. A good question. Am I cooked if I just started studying for English exam and the exam is tomorrow? I don't think you are cooked in any case because one of the things that I don't really enjoy much about our education system is this fear of failure. What I try to teach is that failing is okay and it's a natural part of learning. Even if you just started studying for your English exam tonight and the exam is tomorrow, tomorrow is not the last day of your school, not the last day of your life. Hopefully, there will be another day, another exam, another chance to improve your marks. So don't overthink it. Study your best now, be at peace, and go and do your best at the exam tomorrow. If it doesn't work out, there's always a second chance, there's always another try. So don't stress. I like Ali Abdal's book, which is called Feel Good Productivity. You can be actually more productive if you just relax, breathe, and feel good about the task at hand. So you are not cooked by any means, and your grades do not define you. They it's even questionable if they really measure your actual understanding or knowledge on the subject. So grades are just grades. They are there for reference. They do not define you or who you are. I hope that answers your question. Thank you, sir. Needed those wise words. You are welcome, and I hope this will help you to actually study better. Mister, what is the next book you will read after this? I think the good book to read after this would be The Richest Man in Babylon. I really love that book, and it's really a pleasure to read because it reads like a story, just like this one. And this one dives into the power of using money or having money work for you even more. All right. Oh, please tell me it is good to go because it's almost 10 p.m. and I didn't really sleep well this night. So that book is really good. Yes, I love The Richest Man in Babylon. Alrighty. Should we call this a night? I thank everyone who has joined us